think we're ready to go.
Are you ready? I call to order the September 22nd, 2021 Area Board of Zoning Appeals of Tippecanoe County meeting. First item on the agenda is approval. First item on the agenda is roll call.
Steve Clevenger.
Present.
Ed Butts. Gary Schroeder.
Present.
Frank Donaldson.
Here.
Michelle Dennis.
Here.
Jen Decker. Tom Andrew.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is approval of the minutes.
I move we approve the minutes from the July 28th, 2021 meeting as submitted.
And do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any comments or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion carries. New business, please. New business? Nothing? Okay. At this time, I'll take the public hearing motion.
I move that there be incorporated into the public hearing portion of each application to be heard this evening and to become part of the evidence at such hearing, the Unified Zoning Ordinance, the Unified Subdivision Ordinance, the Comprehensive Plan, the bylaws of the Area Board of Zoning Appeals, the application and all documents filed therewith, the staff report, and recommendations on the application to be heard this evening, and responses from checkpoint agencies.
This conference will now be recorded.
I will now.
So we have a motion and a second. I think we need to vote on that.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That motion carries. I'd like to now briefly discuss our procedures. Each case will be heard following a motion and a second from the board. We'll ask the staff to report on its findings. Following the staff report, we will ask the petitioner to present his or her case, after which anyone wishing to support the petitioner's request for a variance or special exception will be asked to come forward. After hearing from the petitioner and those speaking on his or her behalf, we'll ask those speaking against the petition to present their arguments. The petitioner will then be allowed to rebut arguments raised by those in opposition to his or her petition. Following the rebuttal, the board may wish to ask questions of the petitioner, supporters, and opponents of the petition or of the staff. The staff will have the opportunity at this time to make any necessary clarifying comments. We will then vote by a prescribed ballot. 4 votes are necessary to make any decision. In the absence of 4 votes, for or against, the petition is automatically continued to the next meeting. There are 5 of us present this evening. Please observe the following guidelines for the sake of time and fairness to all. State your name and address for the record before you speak. Limit your remarks to 5 minutes or less. Do not repeat arguments that have been brought up by others. Remember that all visual aids used to support your arguments will remain the property of the board. Cell phones must be turned off while the meeting is in session. Please step out of the room before using your cell phone. And with that in mind, we'll hear the first case.
I move to hear and to vote on BZA 2061 Quick Trip Corporation. Petitioner is requesting the following sign variances for proposed gas station convenience store in highway business zone: to allow 132.6 square feet of signage instead of the maximum permitted 100 square feet on a freestanding monument sign, UZO 4-8-6, revised 9/15/21. Number 2, to allow a sign setback of 20 feet instead of the required setback of 36 feet. That's a sign setback is equal to the sign height on the same freestanding monument sign, UZO 4-8-6, revised 9/15/21. In, to allow a total sign area on site of 334.36 square feet, composed of the freestanding monument sign near State Road 43 and 5 fascia signs instead of the maximum permitted 216 square feet. That's UZO 4-8-6, revised on 9/15/21, on property located at 1973 through 1887 Northgate Courts, lots 1 through 4 in Gateway Park Commercial Subdivision Battleground, Tippecanoe 28, Northeast 24-4, with condition continued from the August ABZA meeting at petitioner's request, and that's her first continuance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second, and we'll ask for staff to report on findings.
All right, good evening. My name is Maureen. For those of you who don't know me, I'm the newest planner here, so just wanted to introduce myself first. So happy to be here, and let's get started here. So our site is located in Battleground near the I-65 State Road 43 interchange. Specifically, it was lots 1 through 4 of the Gateway Park Commercial Subdivision on the southwest corner of the intersection of State Road 43 and Northgate Court. The commercial zoning pattern near the I-65 State Road 43 interchange has been in place for many years. The subject property is zoned highway business, as is all the immediate adjacent parcels. There's also some other business zones in the area, like this neighborhood business area here, as well as some general business areas. In the larger vicinity, there's some agricultural, residential, these R2 and R1 areas, and there's a floodplain area, but it's quite far from our site. Some land use patterns to note are all the adjacent parcels to the subject property are unimproved. The adjacent lot to the south was that old Holiday Inn, Days Inn, that was demolished in 2019 after standing vacant since 2003. There is an access easement there that previously served the hotel, running parallel to State Road 43 that the petitioner states will be removed. There's also some gas stations in the vicinity, this Bedrock Liquors, Wendy's, McDonald's, just a typical off your interstate kind of exit. There's also Bluebird Estates and what was the other one? Quail Ridge, some subdivisions over to the east here, and then Harrison High School is off the map a bit to the west. So you do have some residential and school traffic going up and down this road here. So a sketch plan has been filed for the October 6th Executive Committee meeting to replat the current 4 plats into a single lot. This needs to occur for petitioner to obtain their building permits. So an argument could be made that this subdivision replat should have been finalized, recorded prior to submitting the BZA request because there's some things that could be affected because of that. The subject site has frontage on this Northgate Court here, as well as State Road 43. Northgate Court being a local road and State Road 43 being a primary arterial. So the site plan shows access from 3 entrances on Northgate Court. You can see here 1 furthest in and then 2 somewhat near State Road 43. But like I said before, this site plan has not been fully reviewed by NDOT or APC staff because it has not been final platted. So at first glance, APC's transportation staff and NDOT are both concerned about this location on this first opening here that's closest to State Road 43. There's some discussion about what we can do to help with traffic, not be backing up here. So there's still a chance this could not be there, so that could affect this variance request here for this sign, so it's just something to keep in mind. The proposed parking is more than adequate for the site. Battleground utilities serve the site, and all surrounding zoning is also HB, so no buffer yard is required. So in terms of our comments here, petitioner is seeking 132.6 square feet of signage instead of the permitted 100 square feet of signage for their freestanding monument sign, so this first one here by the road here, with variance request number 2. The increase in sign area is just simply not needed because there's really nothing about the site staff thinks that justifies this increase. It's also staff's opinion to not maybe set a precedent of allowing larger freestanding signs than what the ordinance allows, especially because this area is developing and there's going to just be more commercial developments probably moving in, so we just thought it was giving this site an unfair advantage that it doesn't really need. Petitioner is also seeking to reduce the required sign setback for the proposed 132.6 square foot monument sign from 36 feet to 20 feet. That's request number 3. If this request is denied, it's important to note that it should be met from both Northgate Court and State Road 43. We just wanted to make sure that was clear. Staff believes that the sign being 36 feet tall, should any kind of hardships that they were claiming about the topography probably won't apply anymore if the sign is 36 feet tall. But also, we think that the sign can be moved or reformatted in some way, that they wouldn't need a variance. So, let's see. Yeah. And then variance request number 4, I guess I should go through this first. So there's some site pictures here. So looking down that access road that was to the old hotel is here. So you can see the traffic going by here. So it's pretty visible from State Road 43. You can even see the Wendy's sign across the street. So that one is 35 feet tall, which will be about the same height as their monument sign. And this is looking north. So you can see, again, pretty good visibility to the site. This is looking, if you're standing on State Road 43 where the monument sign would be. So there's some brush and stuff here, but we assume that they'll clear that out and they'll be able to see the site just fine. So yeah, so variance request number 4 will lead to an approximate 150% increase in permitted amount. Just to understand a little bit better here what they're asking for, we have the 132.6 monument sign, on 121 square foot fascia sign over the entrance, and then there's the 2 logo signs, the 19.42 on each side of that fascia sign, so there'll be 3 total on the building, plus then 2 fascia signs on each side of the gas station canopy. So that's all 6 signs there. You can kind of see where they are on the site. Sorry about that. Staff determined the maximum sign area for the site would be 216 square feet of total permitted signage. And we believe that the ordinance imposed signage area is more than adequate and that they really don't need this additional signage on the front of the convenience store especially. So regarding the ballot items, it is staff's opinion regarding these variances that the terms of the zoning ordinance are being applied to situations that are common to other properties in the same zoning district. There's nothing unusual about the size, shape, or topography of this lot, and there are no physical characteristics that would justify an increase in signage area, larger monument sign, or setback relief. As well as strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will not result in an unusual or unnecessary hardship as defined in the zoning ordinance. The hardship involved is self-imposed or solely based on a perceived reduction of or restriction on economic gain. It's petitioner's desire to erect more signage than allowed that is causing the difficulty, not the zoning ordinance. So for these reasons, staff recommends denial for all 3 variance requests, and if approved, staff is recommending a conditional approval, the condition being that petitioner should submit a revised site plan that agrees with the conditions of the final plat, because that hasn't been platted yet. So, thank you. I can take any questions.
Thank you, Maureen, and welcome as a planner.
Thank you.
And we may have questions later. Petitioner or his or her representative.
Good evening, Kevin Riley, attorney with Riley, Peter and Schreier, representing Quick Trip. Is that okay? All right. Again, Kevin Riley, attorney with Riley, Teeter and Schreier, representing the petitioner. Quick Trip is under contract to purchase this ground from the current owner, and their plan is to develop a travel center that's approximately 8,300 square feet. This site is next to the site that used to house the old hotel and Battleground, so it's a location that is badly in need of a breath of new life, and Quick Trip is willing to invest a substantial amount of money to bring in a business at this site, develop the site, and then hopefully spur more growth in that area. Their plan is to employ around 30 to 35 people for this business. The convenience store will contain a full-service kitchen, providing various foods, and then the service station itself is capable of providing services for cars, RVs, and semis, so all 3 of those. We've discussed these variances a few times with the town of Battleground. They've been very accommodating and trying to work with us on this. As a result of those discussions, we made some revisions to our requests. There are a couple of members of the Battleground Town Council here tonight, and it's our understanding they're going to speak in favor of these requests, and they're supportive of these requests. I did want to address, before I get into the elements of a variance, wanted to address a couple of points specifically that are in the staff report. With regard to the setback, there has been a meeting, as I understand it, between the County Department of Transportation and the petitioner, and it has been determined that the driveway location will not have to be moved. So that concern about the possibility of that driveway moving is no longer an issue. And also, I wanted to note that the sign is within the ordinance's fall-down rule. It meets that requirement, so there is not a safety issue that we've got this sign that may be too big and would fall outside of that zone. There was a comment that we could maybe move the sign. My understanding is that if we move the sign back further, then we end up with concerns of it being underneath the canopy or near the canopy or obstructed by the canopy, so we don't view that as a realistic option. With regard to the size, the square footage of the pole sign or the signage on the pole sign, this site sits about 30 feet above State Road 43. All the other businesses on 43 are at street level, so we've got a site that is elevated with a building that is going to be set back. It's our position that we need the additional signage for visibility. We also think it's a safety issue, so semis that are coming in to use the business will have, if we've got the larger signage, they'll have more time to safely move over and access the site. So we view that as a positive reason for the increased signage on the pole sign. And I would note we did get rid of the request for a 100-foot tall freestanding sign after discussions with Battleground, and even though that is an industry standard, 100-foot tall monument signs, 678 square feet in sign area. So we're much smaller than the industry standard. With respect to the specific portions or specific factors for granting a variance, I think APC and we agree that this is not injurious to the health, public health, safety, and general welfare of the community. I've kind of gone over some of the reasons why. We agree that the request will not affect the value of adjacent properties in a substantially adverse manner, so we've met the first two requirements of granting a variance, and I don't think those 2 points are disputed. We do not agree that this is a common situation to other properties in the same zoning district because of the elevation, because of the topography of the site. We see it as a different situation altogether. With regard to the question of a strict application of the ordinance, we do, again, think that this is going to be create an unusual or unnecessary hardship because of the elevation of the site and the need for visibility for this building or this business. We disagree that the hardship is self-imposed. We don't have any control over the topography or the elevation of that site, so it is not a self-imposed problem or need. And then we do believe that we're requesting the minimum relief needed to alleviate the hardship. As I said, we have substantially decreased our original requests, and we did that as in an effort to try to work with the town and make sure that they were okay with what we were asking for. So we do believe we're seeking the minimum relief necessary. And I just wanted to reiterate as I close, this property sat vacant for years, and it's our opinion that it's time to get this property redeveloped, and Quick Trip is willing to do that, but we request your support of these variances. And did want to mention that J.D. Dudley, real estate project manager and employee of Quick Trip for 20 years, is here tonight if you have any questions of him. So happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Riley.
May I ask, Kevin?
Sure.
I had one clarification on the staff report at page 2. It has the 3 numbered points, 1, 2, and 3, about the possibility of moving the opening. You touched on that. Can you give us some more detail? Because I'm not sure that was a known to the staff.
And
so,
J.D., you were in that meeting. I was not, so can you speak to that?
to the extent that you could address that as it's addressed in the staff report, I think that might be helpful.
Sure.
Yes, sir. My name is J.D. Dudley. I'm a real estate project manager for Quick Trip, office at 742 Northwest Loop 410, Suite 102 in San Antonio, Texas. So to answer your question, we originally vetted, we're a very conservative company, so we had to vet the variances before we actually produced the plat, submitted and spent those dollars. We had since done that, submitted a sketch plan review, and that turned into having a meeting on, I believe it was Monday of this week, Monday afternoon, In that meeting, DOT expressed concerns about the driveways and what we needed to do to mitigate their concerns. And what the outcome of that meeting was that they wanted us to go ahead and put a median in Northgate to restrict left-in access so that we didn't have stacking back onto 43, which we will comply with.
And is that as described at point 2 in the report?
And that's on page.
That's page 2.
And with the sketch plan, we are putting signs on the site this week to move forward to bring it before the county. So the plat will be forthcoming quickly.
How about items 1 and 3 in the staff report?
The driveway that is closest to, so council's asking about these two, if we address those. Did you address those in the meeting? Correct. Those were addressed?
The one thing that they did ask for is the traffic impact analysis for a traffic signal. We are not opposed to putting a signal at this location. It's not something that we've looked at. I know we're okay with putting the median in. We'd prefer just to do, instead of doing a full impact study because we're accessing an existing driveway on 43, I think we would push back on that a little bit and just ask for a signal analysis, because if that's what we're talking about, is putting in the infrastructure there. If all the TIA is going to tell us is that we need to put a signal in, we'd rather just do the warrant study for the signal itself. But we would not be opposed to putting a signal in at this location along with the median and improving the safety of it.
And so item 1 has not been addressed by your conversation with NDOT?
The median accomplishes that. So the median with that,
Oh, is that, okay.
yes, sir. So the median would restrict the left-in movements there.
Essentially, it'd be referred to as a right in, right out. So with the median there, so that would restrict.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition?
Hello, it's a different perspective.
Yeah.
Greg Jones, 102 Tipton Street, Battleground, Indiana. I'm the council representative for the APC. I think the council's main objection with the original variance was the 100-foot pylon sign and the size, the volume of it. I think we agree with Quick Trips. There's elevation change from 43 up to the site itself. It's, and the building sets back. The canopy itself will be up fairly close and visible, but I think the building itself will set back to a degree. And so for the council, we don't object, I think, to the other, signage on the building and the canopy. The setback, we're not really sure exactly. The sign got taller. It does meet the size requirements now of a monument sign. And so I guess we're fairly neutral on the setback. And we understand that obviously the final judgment is going to be with the board. So, but we are, I think, at this point, favorable on the signage as it stands. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Speaking in favor of the petition.
Hello, James Miller, 131 North Railroad Street, Battleground, Indiana. I'm president of Town Board of Battleground. I think the first three speakers have covered all the details. I'd like to just point out that Quick Trips has over 900 stores across the southern tier states and the western states. This is their first incursion into Indiana, and we feel really, I don't know if it's blessed, but fortunate to have a corporation of this quality and magnitude coming into our county and our area. And I think the location they have, it's going to be a testimony to the quality of their operation, and it's going to be a benefit to Battleground. And we're trying not to get too excited about it. So that's my comments right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. Speaking in favor of the petition?
Yes, I was.
No, I mean, I'm asking for if there's anyone else. Hearing none, is anyone in opposition to the petition? Questions, comments from the board?
Question. So
Tom?
if a semi's coming north on 65, they go right and head north on 43, the only way to get in, they'll have to go up past 600 and turn around? If they're heading north on 43, that median wouldn't block them? They could turn left in there.
I think the median is on the entrance road.
So what we actually do, we keep the truck and car traffic separate. We don't let them intermingle. So all of the trucks will actually come in and come down to the back of the property. You see the driveway to the left? So the trucks will come in and out of that driveway. None of the trucks will be going in between the building or the canopy to access either of those driveways. We typically don't put a physical barrier up there because we do have signage that directs them out, so they can turn left out. They're also, it's so busy around the front of our stores. If they did try to go through there, good luck, just because people are coming in and getting food, and especially that area between the canopy and the building. We run a lot of volume, so they tend to stay away, and we direct them and sign them away from the cars.
That makes sense.
And if they started to do something like that, we would put up a physical barrier if we had to.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Just a clarification, there's no median on 43. The median's actually on the access road.
Correct. The median will be installed with our development.
Correct.
For those two
Right
driveways.
there, right there. Yep, thanks
Yes, sir.
for pointing that out. Whoever's moving the mouse. Thanks, Maureen. I do have another question. What is the purpose of the Q, or of the two QT signs on either side of the Quick Trip? I mean, what do they add?
So for Quick Trip, with us being a privately held company of 63 years, we really pride ourselves on branding. But I will not tell you that they're absolutely crucial. If everything that we're talking about tonight, that would be the first thing that we would say. If that's a deal breaker, we would remove the two, what we call the 19.4 square foot signs. We can absolutely move them. It's just a corporate branding thing where we like all of our stores to look the same. But it's not going to, may not keep us from selling, hot dogs and brisket. But those are the two. We'd like to have them, but those would probably be the two that we can part with.
And I know it was said earlier that you met the fall-down rule. I don't believe you meet the fall-down rule, but I believe what was trying to be said was that the sign would not fall on any entrance or roadway.
Neighboring property.
That it would fall on it might fall on a neighboring, on right-of-way, but it would not. Is that correct?
It'd be 43 right away.
Because it's 36 feet high and you're 20 feet away, it's going to fall on something else, but it's on somebody else's property or on a roadway.
There's enough right-of-way out there that it wouldn't be able to fall into the roadway, but it would, if it fell east, it would fall into to the right-of-way.
It'd fall on the right-of-way, but not the roadway.
Correct.
Is what you're trying to say.
I can say in the 20 years I've worked at Quick Trip, I can't think of a sign that fell, but not to say we have some stores in Tornado Alley, so I'm not to say that they haven't, but.
If it's a tornado, it's probably not going to fall. It's not going to matter where it falls.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
I just have a comment, Steve.
Sure.
I'd say I appreciate the way that the Quick Trip, their council, and the town of Battleground worked this out to come to something that they feel is acceptable. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any last comments? If not, we've got 3 ballots.
All right, I believe it's denoted request number 2 since request number 1 was deleted, correct? So request number 2, signage square footage, there are 5 in hand, and the vote is 5-0 to grant that variance request. The second one, request number 3 now, also sign setback, also have 5 ballots in hand, and the vote is 5-0 to grant the request. And on request number 4, I have 5 in hand, and the vote is 5-0 to grant variance request number 4.
Those 3 variances have been granted, and we'll hear the next case, please.
I move to hear and vote on BZA 2062, James M. Tyler and Jennifer L. Neville. Petitioners are requesting the following setback variances for proposed 14 by 28 swimming pool in an R1 zone, single-family residential zone. Request number 1 is to reduce a front setback to 12 feet from the minimum requirement of 25 feet from a right-of-way on Ravinia Road, UZO 2-1-7, and number 2, to reduce side setback to 12 feet from the minimum requirement of 25 feet from the right-of-way on Bexley Road, UZO 2-1-7, on property located at 705 Bexley Road, Lot 16 in Hillsdale Addition, West Lafayette, Wabash 18 Southeast, 23-4.
We have a motion and a second, and we'll hear on staff, please. Mr. Hiddle.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. David Hiddle with the Area Plan Commission. Here with BZA-2062, your second case tonight. You can see on the map in front of you the subject site, which is in Hillsdale's subdivision, just east of Northwestern Avenue, east of Purdue University. It is R1 zoned subdivision. R1 is a typical single-family zoning district. It is improved with a house. There's a closer aerial map, so you can see that it's a relatively unusually shaped lot because it's surrounded, it's wrapped around by Bexley and or Ravinia. It's hard to tell where Bexley gives way to Ravinia, which is why they've asked for a setback variance from both, just out of a matter of caution. The request has to do with a pool that is proposed to be built, or developed, I should say, an in-ground pool. They just actually amended the request earlier today. The initial request was for a 4-foot setback, and they've made the pool a little bit smaller, or the proposed pool. They submitted a new site plan, which I'll show you in a second, which would require just a 12-foot setback rather than a 4-foot. Still, though, that's significantly less than the 25-foot setback that is required by the ordinance for any structure, be it a pool, a house, a shed, anything. So that's why they're here in front of you today. This is the new site plan. So the pool is over here on the east side of the house. They would also build a deck and then a hot tub between the house and the pool. This garage addition is also proposed, but it's not needing a variance, so it's not on the table tonight. The only thing you're looking at really is the pool and its setback request, so it's not a terribly complex issue. There's a view of the site looking south. There is a privacy fence currently on the property, and the pool would go right over on the other side of the privacy fence on this face of the house right here. And then there's another view from the other angle. This is the privacy fence, and the pool would go on this face of the house, so it would stretch out right in this area. So with the fence obscuring it pretty much, and, as a pool, it being flush with the ground, I think as a purely subjective matter, you might think, well, it really doesn't really make that much of a difference. But what we're looking at here, as always with a variance, is whether the request meets the findings, the required statutory findings. And the one that really gives staff concern is the one that says that the application of the ordinance does not create a hardship, or in the case of having met a finding, does create a hardship for the owner. And we just can't see where that's the case. The property is improved with a house, it's zoned R1, it's used as a single-family dwelling. Because of the shape of the lot, there's not a lot of room, and the required 25-foot setback, there's not a lot of room to build a shed or a pool, specifically with the backyard being very, very limited in size. But a pool isn't an essential part of a dwelling. It's not, you can still live there without having a swimming pool. So in that sense, the ordinance isn't an imposition. Pool is a discretionary matter. It's something that you don't have to have, and just because you want one in staff's eyes isn't itself merit to have a variance granted. So with that, staff asserts that the request does not meet required findings, and we're not supportive of it. We do have one letter that came in written by a Mary Ann Bobilo of 1007 Ravinia Road, and then co-signed by Harriet Smith of 1000 Ravinia Road. I think what our process is typically to read it into the record, so I'll do that. Dear board members, this letter addresses the variance requested from Mr. James Tyler and Ms. Jennifer Neville, residents of 705 Bexley Road, West Lafayette, in the Hills and Dells neighborhood. As neighbors in Hills and Dells, we attest that we do not support the request for a change in variance to allow for reduced setbacks. Their request includes reducing the setback on both Bexley, which fronts their house, and on Ravinia, the side of their house, which is the main artery running through the Hills and Dells neighborhood. There's much vehicle traffic on Ravinia, and on the corner of Bexley and Ravinia, the existing privacy fence on the lot, which extends to within inches of the sidewalk, already limits a degree of visibility. Our neighborhood is home to families and is open to leisure activities, including biking, walking, and jogging. It is a neighborhood open to leisure activities for children and adults. However, the use proposed in their request adds a very different look to a very visible location in Hills and Dells. We ask that you please vote no on this request for rezoning. Thank you, Mary Ann Bobilo and Harriet L. Smith. I will mention, just in case there's a question, that the fence is legally placed. Typically, you're not allowed to have a fence taller than 42 inches in a front yard, but on a corner lot, which this is technically, the administrative officer has the ability to allow a fence in that instance. So the fence is legally erected. So, answer any questions if you might have them.
Not at this time.
Thank you.
Steve,
Thank you, Mr.
I just
Oh,
have
you
a
do?
question maybe while
Okay, go ahead, Gary.
David's up there on the zoning. Obviously, this is R1, and R1U is in New Chauncey. Would there be a difference in setback if this was R1U? Is that where they average setbacks?
Do you know?
And you can answer that later if you want. I was just
I
curious.
believe it's front setbacks,
Okay, not important.
but I don't know when you've got a corner. I don't remember the situation of a corner lot, though.
I'm going to guess R1U would allow for a lesser setback.
Yeah.
But we'll look that up
That
while
just-
we're
I'm just
going on
curious.
here.
And just to clarify, you did say, and that was a question I had, the fence is on here, it's visible, is legally constructed, and everything will be inside of that fence or set back from that fence?
That's
is the
correct.
request. Okay, thank
Yeah.
you.
Go ahead, Frank. Turn on your mic, please.
I'm just, remind me, the letter you read, is that just an individual, or is it an individual representing a larger group?
It's two individuals who look like they're neighbors. They don't indicate that they're representing a larger group.
Do you know which Is it a direct neighbor?
Well, it's 1007 Ravinia and 1000 Ravinia. Offhand, I'm not exactly sure where that is in relation to 705 Bexley.
Thank you. Petitioner, his or her representative.
Well, good evening. It's great to see everyone. My name is Marianne Owen. I'm from the law firm of Stewart and Brannigan. And I have the pleasure to be here this evening on behalf of Jim Tyler and Jen Neville regarding their request for these two variances for their property at 705 Bexley. As was mentioned this morning, we did do a modification of this request to reduce or shall we say, modify the setback from 4 feet to 12 feet off both Bexley and Ravinia. This is for the purposes of putting an in-ground private swimming pool in an enclosed fenced backyard, side yard. This is unusual property based on its location. It's hard to define what is the front yard and a side yard, as has been noted by the staff. This change has come to you as far as the movement from 4 to 12 by some consideration by our staff, by our petitioners in regard to the staff report and the concerns that were raised. And after working with their builder, they came up with a new plan that we've put in front of you. Now, I trust all of you have a copy of that. Is there anyone missing a copy? Okay. Well, the staff report describes this whole matter very well, as was just presented by the director. The location of the lot makes this an unusual property for development, and that is driving why we are here tonight. In many lots, you would find a reasonable area to put a swimming pool. In this particular property, there are places you can place a swimming pool without coming to you for a variance, but the concern is where they are and whether or not they are in the best place for a property like this in this particular neighborhood. And so we have for you a property where we could put a lap pool. We could put it on the south side of the property. We could put it on the west side of the property. However, our clients have reviewed this and found that perhaps the best place is located on the east side of the property, away from their neighbors, nearest neighbors, and placed nearest the nearby roadway of Ravinia and Bexley. That should help modify any noises that are prompted by the pool to limit their impact on their adjacent neighbors. So we are trying to present a request where the pool is going to maintain the integrity of the area and of this particular property, the particular house itself. So, as was also noted, this is going to be enclosed in a fenced-in area, so that is going to be protecting both those passersby and the persons who are using the pool. And for the visibility of the property, nothing is going to change from what you see today. So it's simply a simple request. We're looking to place this pool in an area that is best suited for this particular area of this particular lot and move forward. As noted, once again, we can put a pool on this property. That can be done without this request. However, we're looking to put the pool in the best area for this particular property, one that is beneficial to the area and to this particular property. I'm here to answer any questions, and as are the petitioner.
Go ahead, Frank.
I understand that you've sought out and found the best location for the pool. How do you address the staff's suggestion that you consider a smaller pool? Or what would that take away from the project?
We have reduced the size of the pool in this particular instance. It is And that is what we are proposing to you, a smaller size pool than what was originally requested. We aren't going to the size of a lap pool. This size pool is sufficient to allow for general use, but also for the use of the family members who need a little more area for their needs. You're very welcome.
When it was at the
Mike,
4
please.
foot, when it was at the 4-foot setback,
At the
was the
4 foot-
fence going to be removed?
No.
It still would have been inside the fence at the 4 foot?
Yeah.
Okay, but, all right, so then now it's 12, and it'll be inside that fence, extra tall fence stays.
Mm-hmm.
Right. How about the hardship? David talked about a pool not really being a hardship.
As noted, this pool could be on this lot. This is merely a question of where, and our request is that it be located in a better location than it would be by just sheer right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sure.
Have anyone speaking in favor of the petition? Anyone in opposition to the petition? Please come forward.
Good evening. My name's Tim Bobillo. I am representing two other neighbors, Terry Carvajal, 1008 Ravinia Road, and Andrew Milam, 1004 Ravinia Road. We live at 1007 Ravinia Road. So we're two houses south. On the video, on the picture, you can see the tall brick house is between our house and the petitioner's.
Did you submit a letter?
My wife did.
Your wife did?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's fine. Thank you.
So I won't say anything that she said. She doesn't tell me
Oh,
what she said.
no, I mean, she just can't speak.
Yeah.
Since you didn't sign the letter,
Right,
then
right,
you
right.
can speak.
Yeah. So we live two houses down. We lived there for 16 years and love Hills and Dales. Hills and Dales is a unique neighborhood in many ways. Certainly the history started by the Shook brothers 100 years ago, and its attractiveness to Purdue University, the proximity brings in faculty and people literally from all over the world who live there. But again, I think it's a real unique neighborhood. It has beautiful architecture, beautiful homes, and a great family atmosphere. And, you know, I think all neighborhoods are built with the idea of a lovely home and a picket fence. South of State Street, that was the case 100 years ago, where Oakwood School was and where now the Sonia Marjoram building is. But those neighborhoods have changed, and a lot of the reason is because of lack of zoning ordinances. And about 25 years ago, people in your position, elected and appointed officials, realized how important it was to have unified zoning. And so over years and hours of discussion and debate and argument and coming together, they realized that they would form the unified zoning ordinance. And so I stand here to defend that, your predecessors, and support that. I think that those rules were made in good stead, and I think that those should hold today for this. I applaud my neighbors. They've done a great job with their home. It looks beautiful from the outside. I won't say anything about the fence because we're not here to talk about that, but we think that the ordinance should be upheld as it is in the unified zoning, and so we request that you don't approve their request for change in variance. I also will point out that Hillsdale is filled with beautiful mature trees, some 100-year-old oak trees and tulip trees, and from above, as you get closer, you can't even see that yard because it's covered by the reach of the oak tree. And so that oak tree that is in their neighbor's yard will be only feet from where the digging is, and I am not an arborist, but I wonder what will happen to the roots, of that oak tree as that goes in. I applaud that the fence is legal, yet it does cause a little bit of nuisance in terms of visibility when coming around the corner from either direction. So again, I would ask you to vote no in order to uphold the unified zoning, which already states that the 25 feet is adequate. So and again, what the office said as well. So, all right, thank you.
Thank you. Speaking in opposition?
Good evening. For the record, Tyler Oakes, Ball Eggleston. And I'm here on behalf of Mike Shue in his capacity as guardian of Sally Segrist. Ms. Segrist's home is directly to the west of petitioner's property, which is 715 Bexley Road. Yeah, just to the left on that sheet. Mr. Shue and Ms. Segrist are opposed to this variance and ask the board not to grant this. On top of what staff has said and the neighbors have already adequately said, we believe this would be bad for a couple reasons. First, we think this would cause some sort of a noise issue. Hillsdale is, as the former neighbor just said, 100-ish years old. There's a character about the neighborhood, and a pool really doesn't fit with that kind of narrative. It creates unnecessary noise in a very quiet and peaceful neighborhood that has developed quite a reputation over the years. It is sought out and desired to live in, and that's kind of the reason it has that character about it. Additionally, we feel that we really want to emphasize that no hardship exists. While petitioner has stated this is an unusual lot, and we certainly agree with that. It is an unusual lot, but it was platted for a reason, and the setbacks were put in for a reason. If they can put a pool in regularly without getting a variance, no hardship exists. They're able to do so. That makes no sense. So the variances themselves, we feel, run amok of what the neighborhood stands for. It doesn't meet the statutory requirements, and although we appreciate petitioner keeping the neighbors in mind for the location of the pool, and we certainly appreciate petitioner requesting a smaller pool than they had originally submitted, they're still asking for over a 50% reduction in that setback variance. Given all those reasons, Mr. Shue and Ms. Segrist would respectfully request this board to deny both of the variances. Thank you.
Thank you. Speaking in opposition? Ms. Owen, do you have a rebuttal?
Well, it was wonderful to hear everyone's thoughts on this. I would like to respond to a couple of them. One, in regard to the beautiful tree that was noted, that has been a concern in this whole process. And as you look on that site plan, you'll see that the pool is located specifically approximately 10 feet from the location of the tree to specifically protect its root system. The tree is a beautiful one, and our clients have no interest in hurting it in any way, shape, or form. They'd like to help it continue to mature ever more. So in regard to that, that is our response. Overall, we continue to state this is a situation where a pool can be put on this property. We are requesting to put it in a place that is beneficial to the nearby area. It is placed away from the immediately adjacent properties. It is adjacent instead to the right-of-way that has a natural amount of sound and activity that could be coming out of the pool site as well. But pools are only used for a portion of the year. That should also be noted. So we respectfully request your approval of this these variances and are here to answer any further questions you may have.
Thank you. I know I do have a question. Where are the utilities located? I mean, are there any issues with utilities in the area or any of the surrounding areas?
I'm glad you raised that question. That has been a part of the discussion with our clients. There are utilities laying in the southern section of the lot, which is a part of where they have they looked at putting the pool in that area, but ran afoul of the utilities. There is a question of some utilities on the west side, but ultimately they decided to try this on the east side.
Thank you. Any further questions on the board or comments? Hearing none, we've got ballots.
Thank you.
Thank you.
right on request for variance 1 on Ravinia. I have 5 in hand, and there are 3 to grant, 2 to deny. On request 2, setback on Bexley, there are 3 to grant and 2 to deny.
That case is automatically continued to our next meeting due to a lack of 4 votes in favor or against. And that meeting will be on October, do you have a date?
Looks like October 27th.
27th? So we'll hear it again on October 27th.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you. Administrative matters.
Thank you. I'll be quick. This isn't a matter that you're going to vote on tonight. It's just going to open up a little bit of discussion, or at least put it on your radar. We've been working on amending our public notification processes. We want to have this in place by January 1st of 2022, which makes sense because it'll correspond with the new calendars that come out. And essentially what we're doing is, for all BZA cases, for all Plan Commission cases, we're going to expand the lead time for notice from 10 days minimum to 21 days minimum, which means that if you're the petitioner and you want to rezone your property, you have to get the letters to your neighbors and in the papers 21 days in advance of the hearing, rather than the state mandated minimum of 10 days, which is what we've typically had. And there's, I think, a lot of advantages to be had by that. One, it gives staff additional time to communicate with the petitioners. Typically, we'll have questions, we'll need more information, but by the time we get that information in, it's already time for the hearing. It'll give the petitioners and interested or concerned neighbors more time to talk, negotiate, air out issues, and it'll give neighbors more time to learn what's going on, so hopefully we'll have fewer instances where neighbors are showing up to the hearing just like wanting information, not really understanding what the hearing is about. So I think that'll all be accomplished by expanding to 21 days. Like I said, the 10-day minimum is the state mandated minimum. Most jurisdictions around the state have moved beyond that to a 14-day or a 23 or a 28-day lead time, and I think that 21 days, 3 weeks is right in the middle and probably good enough to get the job done here. So we'll look to have that in place by January 1st. We're also reformatting the notice letter that goes out, and we have that up here in front of you. I don't know if you can really read it, but it takes out the extraneous stuff, like the full legal description, which nobody understands, and it gives you just the basic information that you would want as a neighbor, as a concerned layperson who's getting this in the mail and doesn't know anything about land use or zoning or anything like that. So it tells you what's going on, what's being requested, who's requesting it, the address, some bullet points to tell you as a concerned party sort of what your rights are, what you can do. And then it encourages you to contact both the petitioner and the planner that's assigned to the case, gives you emails and phone numbers. So it's not terribly complicated, but it just gives you the information that you would need to know. And again, it's not up for vote. It's just to put that in front of you to let you know as the BZA that this is something that we're working on. So that's all. Answer any questions that you might have.
I do have one quick one. I know that there have been a number of occasions where somebody has missed one person on a certified mailing. I mean, is it possible, since we're bringing it out to 21 days, that if for some reason somebody missed it and it's noticed before that 10 days, that rather than having that strict 21 days, that could still be sent out, so that you do?
Yeah, you can do what I think the Plan Commission did last week, which you can waive your own rules, so you could
Okay.
waive that 21-day notice requirement down to no less than 10. You can't go beyond the state minimum. So in that case, if they still have that 10-day grace period in play, that you could do that.
Okay.
I'll notice also, you know, that we've had trouble with the Lafayette Leader getting things published on time, so we're not applying that 21-day minimum to the publishing. That's still going to be 10. So that gives the petitioner as much time as possible to whip them into shape to get it published, which I think will help clear up that problem too. So the 21-day issue is just for the mailed letters.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me, and I think it'd be nice, too, to be consistent with what area plan
Yeah.
with the Planning Commission decides.
Another part is that this is all going to be written and prepared by staff, whereas now, with a lot of cases, we put the burden on the petitioner to write the notice letter and say you just need to include these 5 or 6 particular pieces of information. But then those letters are all formatted differently. They kind
Yeah.
of take, you know, artistic license with how they do it. And so it's not uniform and it's not all that reliable. So we're going to be doing it. It's always going to look like that. It's always going to give the same information. And I think that'll be helpful too.
I like that idea, and then having the contacts. I don't recall exactly what the current ones look like. Like you said, I think they kind of take their own, or what's required for the current ones. But I like the idea that it's consistent and has relevant information.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other comments?
No, I think updating the letter is a good idea. I think we're doing that on the Plan Commission notice and going to 21 days. Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hiddle. Unless any member has an objection, the chair will order the findings of each member casting a vote for the majority decision of the board to be the collective findings of the board in support of the decision of the board. Hearing none, it is so ordered. And if there are no other comments, I will take the last motion.
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned.
Wait a second.
What?
Oh, okay, second. Okay, we're done. Okay, good. Okay. You're good.
But on this, on that one, they got
Seemed odd to me.
I was surprised. I don't think they've lived there that long. I think they're new.
Oh, okay.
This conference is no longer being recorded.